Many years ago, my wife and I, when we were first married, back when televisions were still glass tubes, bought a stereo, a surround sound stereo for our apartment at the time. Eventually, when we moved on, had kids, got a place, we upgraded to a Bose. I'm not one to throw things away, and I knew I'd find a place for this eventually. Come once upon a lockdown, I wanted to put a stereo in my garage, and I know from previous experience working in wood shops when I was making the swords and playhouses and whatnot, that a dusty environment will destroy a receiver very quickly, and it's quite an effort to keep the dust out of this. So, what do you do when your wife is no longer nursing and you no longer need a chest freezer full of breast milk, and you've recently upgraded and your chest freezer is now sitting in the garage unutilized? Well, if you're like me and you say, that seems airtight, you can hit up some beer brewing forums and find some comments from people about drilling holes in these things to turn them into fermentation or kegerators and whatnot. Now, this is the one I've done, and it is still functional. The hump down at the bottom is, from what I can tell you, generally speaking, never going to have refrigerant in it. It's an easy way to determine where or how high up they are. Plug it in. It'll freeze. Below the freeze line, there's no refrigeration lines. However, for me, I wanted to put it in the hump. This is a piece of plumbing PVC with a sleeve cut so that I could compress on both sides and keep the aluminum and insulation from coming apart. My power for my receiver, the USB power supply for Android devices, a plug-in for my laptop that I use for my my bike, my power for all my channels going out, and my low voltage and signal lines, including a toss link. Yes, they are coming through a very small space. They are also separated with a aluminum insulation tape, sort of a little frequency shielding between the two. And then there's also foam insulation sandwiched in this custom-made plug so that it's airtight. And then all of these signal lines have these signal interference. Now, I will put all this down in, and this cord will not be hanging out. Normally the top would be. But before I put the subwoofer, the receiver, and everything else in there, I wanted to show what it looks like here. And then I take off the side panel. The original cord for the compressor is tucked into the inside. And then I pull the power cord for the unit itself out like it's the power supply for this. Now, the only reason this thing is apart right now, because twice since I have put it in here, my refrigerator, my nice big LG refrigerator, has had problems. Once with the compressor going out as a part of apparently compressors that sucked on those LGs in a class action lawsuit, and then again recently when the evaporator coil was also replaced. So I had to pull all this out and put it back into operation as a freezer / refrigerator with a thermostat control. Now, I had never intended or expected to take it apart again, which is why when I put it in, I put these whips, these heavy gauge power cords with disconnects, so that if I had to move this, I could disconnect it from the rest of the equipment and move it around relatively easily. I didn't want to have to pull the wires out of it every single time. So I have my one port for my amplified signals and another port for my low voltage, mainly a USB cord to Android device, my RCA cable, and then a toss link, and then the AC power comes out the side there. I will come back when I have it all back tucked in. So this is an 8-inch subwoofer. It's nothing super impressive, but again, this is all just what's on hand. I made some feet for it, rubber feet, out of old rollerblade wheels laying around, and some pieces of PVC to raise it up and turn it into a downward firing subwoofer. When I initially put it in here, it was sitting sideways, and it just didn't seem as crisp and clear because the sub was, I don't know, firing sideways inside here as opposed to down into the bottom and then sort of horning, coming out as a horn effect that, with the lid tilted, directs it forward out of the garage and whatnot and spreads it out. Plus, then I can totally close it. Anyway, that's what will be under the shelf. This is very much a kludge in honor of the name of my channel, and that this is given to me by somebody. These are remnants here of IKEA shelving. Also another piece of IKEA shelving, as is evident by the holes that are in it from the peg shelves. This is a piece of just generic IKEA from another set, but a laminated. This was never laminated, that was all bare wood. Anyway, just junk that's laying around, built to sit on that hump and then at an angle so that the receiver itself is slightly tilted and therefore easier for me to see the buttons on. And then this old receiver itself was always passive, never had a fan in it. And in a garage here in Texas, it already runs on the warm side, and then putting it in that box. So in order to help cool it down, you can just barely see it there, that it has been shaped up. There's 2 computer fans that are inside here. I deformed or reshaped the top of the case to raise it up some so that it would sit above the heat sinks and still freely spin. They are 12 volt powered by this 12 volt transformer that plugs into the plugs on the back of this unit that would have been for like a CD changer or other exterior devices, so that when you turn this on, they come on as well. They are tapped into power the fans, and also then I have these little, you can see it's actually a cigarette lighter plug to these little lights, blue LED lights, because, well, in the freezer itself, these are not very well lit. You can't really see what they are. The screen's lit, but the buttons themselves are not, so it puts a little bit of blue light in the front so I can see it in a dimly lit garage environment when I am just chilling out here and using perhaps the TV on occasions during the lockdown when, you know, there was a table and people sitting around it with the door open. There's the shelf in with my power bar and surge protector on the side there. That is where I power a USB extension that is connected onto the end of a data whip. It comes out to the back and just barely reaches over the top. It allows me to operate a tablet and or my phone with either a USB-C dongle adapter or a RCA plug, so that I can operate this with the lid closed. I don't do that for very long because it is potential to get hot, but generally speaking, it takes a while. But I do that when I'm doing sandy things, or perhaps spray painting in the area with fans, anything like that. I've never had a cause to operate the freezer with the receiver on, just to prove that, yes, it will keep it from getting hot, because, well, as I'll show in a video later, when you close the lid, the base disappears because it's airtight. All right, well, here she is, all set up back in her normal place in front of the TV that I use when I'm in the garage during the lockdown, watch movies as a group or whatever, have live concerts playing that were being streamed. I have the old receiver on a stand. I also use this for storage of a Microsoft Surface tablet that I use for my motorcycle to do all the tuning for my power commander and the ECU remapping. The one thing I have changed in this new scenario, and that's because when I used the RCA plugs previously, it was always at a lower volume. It's one of the reasons why I liked listening to music from the TV, because the Toslink always had a higher overall output. I found these on Amazon recently and made the switch. So this is a Toslink from USB-C dongle. I can plug this directly into my phone and then provide an optical signal to my Toslink, and yes, it does. It is louder than an RCA output. Strangely enough, though, the volume control on the phone works. Toslink usually doesn't have anything built into it for volume control that I'm aware of. And then I got a USB-C to dual USB-C splitter that's designed to offer the ability to charge and run headphones. So now I can plug in my phone, keep it charged, and listen to music here in the garage without any signal interference from my power and my audio signal next to each other. So there are now at this point no
no analog signals going into this anymore, just the Toslink. Anyway, this is what it is. Now I'd show you a video of it playing, but I haven't worked out what to play that wouldn't get struck for copyright infringement. But I can guarantee you that when it's running, you close this and the sub just goes silent. Granted, I want to replace this because it's an amplifier that's old, and its sub amp will occasionally go silent, and I have to come over and knock it. Anyway, this is what you can do with stuff that you've got lying around. My center channels, side channels, and then of course my surround sound channels up there. Not that music usually needs it, but hey, we did watch movies and that was what it was made to do. As usual, like, subscribe, please leave a comment. If you have one of these laying around, you have any questions you've ever thought of what can I do with this thing, well, here's an option.